Hi everyone, glad to see you again on my channel. Thank you for following me. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Now, let's get into it. Let's start with this one. This one is from the subreddit ProRevenge, posted by ItCameFromTheAbyss. This is going to be a very long story, so I hope you've got your soda and popcorn. This is going to be a very long story, so I hope you've got your soda and popcorn. For this story, the cast will be me, my brother Mark, my half-brother Sam, my half-sister Alicia, and Mom. All fake names for obvious reasons. My mom is the highest level of a failed parent. When I was 2, my baby brother Mark was born. My mother basically threw me away to be raised by my grandparents because I was, in her words, a demonic hellspawn of a child. Let's time skip. My mother has now had her 4 kids. Mark and I with my dad, and Sam and Alicia with my stepfather. I'm about 13, Mark 11, Alicia is about a year and a half, and Sam was just born. My stepdad's idea of parenting was to beat it out of me. Every time I showed any sense of individuality, I got beat for it. Sometimes right in front of my mother, and she didn't care a bit. On top of that, my mother and stepdad refused to do any housework, instead waiting for the weekend when my grandparents would leave and put us to work doing things adults should be doing, like climbing on the roof at the age of 11. Time skip to when I'm 14. My mother told me and Mark to watch Alicia. She was 2 by this time. I pop up and ask, "Where is Alicia?" Full-blown panic mode. We rushed outside and looked around, didn't even think to check the pool. Next thing we hear, my mother screaming at the top of her lungs, and we rush outside to find Alicia on the deck, not breathing. My mother and stepdad trying to perform CPR. Alicia did not survive. Time skip. I'm 18 now. Mark was 15, had gotten into a fight and broke his finger. It had to be repaired with pins and screws, and he was on some pretty hefty pain medicine. It was my mother's job to watch him and regulate his pain medicine. Sadly, that bad thing did happen. Mark had died from a drug overdose at the age of 15 because my mother wasn't watching him like she should have been. That was the final straw. At that moment, my family was divided. Sam had been taken away by CPS and put in foster care. My mother was never allowed to raise children again, and I never saw my half-brother ever again. This woman caused the deaths of 2 of my siblings, took away my half-brother, abused me mentally, emotionally, and physically, and took away my childhood. The first revenge. My grandfather had basically been my best friend. He had one flaw. He was too kind for his own good, something my mother maliciously preyed on after the deaths in the family. So I made it a point that every time she tried to take advantage, I challenged her on it in front of them. I wanted her to do something. She never went that far, but she did break down crying multiple times. Then I got lucky. She slipped at work, herniated a few of her discs. Around this time, my stepdad had been imprisoned for doctor shopping, and my mother wanted a divorce. When she came home from the hospital, I would take her meds and hide them around the house. A few months later, she got into a car wreck, and the police found out she was on a hefty amount of her pain meds. She was charged with a DUI and put in jail for 6 months. The second revenge. After she got out of jail, she was living with us. While my mother was in jail, I made it a point to shove all of her property into storage and made her room my room. She had no choice but to sleep on the couch. I enjoyed every moment of her agonizing. The third revenge. My mother had somehow convinced my grandparents to start illegally procuring drugs for her. I argued with my grandparents to stop. It was illegal. I refused to be a part of it and put in an anonymous tip into local law enforcement, but nothing came of it. My revenge had failed this time, plus I was still messing with hiding her medications. It's childish, but sometimes you have to be a bit childish to get the point across. The final revenge. I am 31 now. It has been 13 agonizing years since my brother Mark died, and I have finally completed my revenge on my mother. My grandfather just passed last year. My mother comes out to me while we're sitting there talking and asks if I will take care of her after grandma was gone, that it was my duty as her son. I stood up, and while I stared my mother directly in the eyes, I managed the most hateful, vicious stare I could muster and told her, "You get nothing from me. Grandma's going into a retirement home. I'm moving states. You destroyed my life, took away my childhood, were responsible for the deaths of my siblings, broke the law numerous times, and you made everyone's lives a living hell. You will be on the street and die alone, and I will laugh. I never loved you, and I never will." My grandmother's jaw hit the floor and my mother burst into tears. I had finally broken her and got my revenge. After that, I'm moving to a new state and starting my new life with a new job and wonderful girlfriend who I love more than anything. For those of you who have brothers and sisters, love them, cherish them, and be with them because you never know what's going to happen. Let's see what people are saying. The first comment says, I'm going to stay away from the rest of the story in general, but I will say I am so sorry for the loss of your siblings. Did you ever try to find your little brother? There are charities all around the world who work specifically with people whose family members have been taken by the system to reunite them again. This next comment really got me. If you can find out which agency handled the adoption, contact them. They might know how to get in touch with him and give him your contact information. Here's a reply that stood out. Hope you find your little brother. OP, that would be a truly happy ending to this story. Another person wrote, beautiful. What separates ProRevenge from everyday revenge is the ability to plot over long periods of time with patience and certitude in your strategy. Sorry you had to go through this, but you came out on top. Someone responded with, this is not ProRevenge, not even a nuclear one, not by a long shot. More akin to two supermassive black holes colliding, causing ripples in space-time sort of revenge. Would make a great anime, though. Someone else replied, I seriously don't know how some people in the comments can defend or pity OP's mother. She made OP's life a living hell. Yet you pity her? OP, I'm sorry for what you had to go through. I hope you're in a better place now. All right, story 2. This one is from the subreddit ProRevenge, posted by Infinite Respect 4757. In my young 20s, I moved to a new city to try start my career and life. Money was very tight, but I was confident I would get things up and running. In my job search, I came across a promising opportunity at a small firm. Instead of offering me the job, the owner said he would like me to come in for 2 days and work. If it was a fit, they would hire me, and if not, they would pay for the 2 days. Money was so tight at the time that I figured taking the bus to and from the job was a luxury I could not afford, and I walked an hour each way to get there. I did good work both days, but it was not a fit. The owner then tells me, I know we said we would pay you, but it's just too complicated to set you up for just 2 days, so you will just have to be happy you got the experience with us. I was mad as I really needed the money, but I figured it was not in my best interest to make waves. I did, however, decide that someday, some way, I would get my revenge on the owner. I did find a good job that led to a great career, but I always kept tabs on the owner, looking for the time and place to get some revenge. Just short of 20 years passed, and now I was very senior in my chosen profession. I was a leader in a very large national company that hired firms. We had a large contract come up, and I was the lead executive on the procurement team in the area his firm operated in. The owner and his firm put in an exploratory bid. They were not perfect for the job, but they could actually do it. So I assisted in them moving to the next stage and the next, and then the final stage. The easiest thing I could have done was shut them down right away and get a bit of revenge. But they were qualified, so I didn't do that. The proposals and presentation came in, and luckily the other firm was a bit better, and we went with them. Normally the executive lead didn't deliver the bad news, but I volunteered to take on the call, and that was my little dose of revenge. It was fun to call the owner, who had no idea we met 20 years ago, and tell him, we were impressed with your proposal, but it is just not the right fit. I know you must be disappointed to not get the contract, but at least you got great exposure to our process. The firm must have done about 200 hours of work on their proposal, so I figured that was payback for my 16 hours, with 20 years of interest. Let's see what people are saying. The first comment says, absolutely love this. There's a moral to the story that is important. The people you piss off, they don't just disappear afterwards. The universe has a way of making the pizza guy you stiffed on a tip be the first person to show up at your car accident. This next comment really got me. My grandmother had a cartoon on the fridge when I was growing up that said, remember that the toes you step on today may be connected to the legs that support the arse you need to kiss tomorrow. Another person wrote, I like yours, but another good one is from Terry Pratchett. Always remember that the crowd that applauds your coronation is the same crowd that will applaud your beheading. Perhaps people like a show. Here's a reply that stood out. Beats the piss out of the compounded returns on your labor from way back then. You gave that jerk what he deserved. Excellent revenge. One commenter said, proposals are a paida. This was indeed pro. Maybe it's not as sparkly and dazzling as some of the other pro stories, but anyone who's worked on a big proposal knows. This was good work indeed. Someone responded with, the universe has a way of making the pizza guy you stiffed on a tip be the first person to show up at your car accident. Finally, where's the Fkin pizza? I stank our That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed these stories. I'll see you in the next one. Please comment, subscribe, and like if you enjoyed this video. It would help my channel very, very much. See you next time.